back to the show, everybody. My next guest is a linguistics professor at the University of Oxford. He has chronicled the various responses to the UN Act of 2019 that has encompassed the world for the past century. These thoughts are all displayed in his newest book, Call Me the Linguist. Please welcome Jack Jameson.
Thank you for having me, Chad. It's great to be here.
Happy to have you. So, let's start off by telling the viewers a little bit about what's happened over the past century. What exactly are the various responses you talk about in your book?
Well, as you all know, there's some legislation passed in 2019 by the United Nations that established 5 global key languages in the world, and this is English, Spanish, French, Mandarin, and Arabic. And this caused some uproar in the world because people weren't happy that they weren't being represented correctly, but now in 2150 we are slowly coming to a more sustainable environment today.
I know a lot of you folks at home don't really know this about me, but I actually got my degree in linguistics like you. I was a newscaster before I was the host of this show.
I remember I was alongside you.
That's right. So, back to my roots, and for the viewers, the issues that happened also included Japan and China. They had major battles over the national language, and eventually China came out as the victor. Correct?
Right, Chad. Asia had a tough time adjusting to this new language system, and China's really emerged as one of, if not the most dominant country in the world today. If you don't mind, I'd like to show the viewers a clip of a news broadcast during the riots in Asia in 2052. I think you'll like this. You are the broadcaster at the time.
Do we have the clip? Oh, sweet. That's awesome. Let's take a look at me during the riots of Asia 98 years ago in 2052. This is Chad Alef with CBP News. I'm here in Osaka, Japan, and there are major riots breaking out across the area. These riots are caused by the UN's Act of 2019, citing Mandarin as one of the 5 global languages. The folks here in Japan are not happy and are voicing their concerns through violent protests. The situation is not good here right now, as Japan feels betrayed by the United Nations. They're thriving up to 2019, but now in 2052, their slow fade from relevance continues.
Japanese is a global language!
What a terrifying and rough time that was.
It was. Today the riots have really cooled off in Japan, but Japan's influence in the world has also diminished with the loss of their language. Japan has been unable to grow industrially as they were in pre-2019, and that has pushed them down the world's hierarchy. Here's a chart of Japan's industrial output since 2019.
And Germany. Germany was the top dog in Europe before the 2019 legislation, but similar to Japan, Germany has also faded from relevance.
Countries that didn't spread their language via imperialism have struggled to stay relevant after this legislation was passed. They weren't able to spread their language during that time, so the UN didn't think they were able to recognize their language as a global language. Because of this, Japan, Germany, and Russia have all slid in the world's hierarchy.
So now that we have the background of what's been happening for the past 100+ years, tell me about what you have been writing about and what you are going to be speaking about at the upcoming Speakers Tell All event in the spring here in New York City.
Well, writing this book has allowed me to travel across the world and meet new people and be able to speak and interview them about their experiences and opinions on this UN Act. I also had the unique privilege of being able to travel to Palestine, a country that is not part of the United Nations, and talk to some of their citizens about their thoughts on the legislation. A common theme was that most people, no matter their mother tongue, were sad to see various languages and as a result cultures go extinct.
Well, for me personally, I have a nephew in Russia, as well as a cousin in Ghana, both very caught up with things happening these days, and they are actually completely fine with the legislation that was passed. The one from Russia believes that culture can still exist, even with those 5 languages being the only 5 languages. Then again, she is biased, as she spoke both Russian and Mandarin, but I think she makes up a healthy part of the population. My cousin in Ghana couldn't be happier, because English is one of the 5 languages, and she speaks it. English is so widespread, and Mandarin, Arabic, French, and Spanish are spoken in such great numbers that the majority of people don't even care about this legislation because it doesn't affect them.
Well, Chad, your points are understandable, but what about everyone else? As a linguistics professor, I respectfully do not agree with your point. Without a living population of speakers of the language, the culture dies. And because of this UN Act, so many cultures have gone extinct as the world has progressed. While technology has of course benefited our society, the ability to connect with someone on the other side of the world within seconds has hindered our ability to really appreciate the various cultures that did exist throughout our world.
You raised an interesting point about technology, which actually leads me to my next question. How did technology really affect the UN's decision back in 2019, and how has it affected what has happened since the decision was made?
I think technology played a key role in affecting the UN's decision. The UN saw countries like US, China, and France all making strides through technology, while countries like Bhutan, Uzbekistan, and Laos falling behind due to the fact that their citizens did not speak one of the 5 global languages. I mean, back when the decision was made, English made up approximately 80% of the internet. The UN felt that the best way to even out the playing field was to shrink the amount of language spoken in the world down to 5.
So, are you saying that, for example, if Japanese was spoken by people in Africa and South America and Asia and made up, let's say, 10% of all internet, then they would be the language of Asia and not Mandarin?
Yes and no. Japan would be more widespread than Mandarin in that sense, but the sheer mass of people that speak Mandarin is hard to overcome.
Okay, so let's say that German versus French. Why French over German? I understand that French became a global language because they were able to spread their language through imperialism and had a significant influence throughout Africa and Southeast Asia, but isn't German pretty widespread as well? I mean, I know people in Germany and Austria and Switzerland speak German.
I don't think German is as widespread. France's influence is significantly more global, as you said, with people worldwide speaking it. German is simply not a global language. It is concentrated heavily in Europe and was not able to make its way outside of Europe, hence why it is not one of the 5 global languages. You have to look more from a broad perspective.
So, the broad perspective being, in order for a language to be recognized by the UN and all countries as the official universal language, said language must be spoken across the world, have a significant percentage of it on the internet, and have history and culture backing it, like the 5 languages that we were talking about before.
Exactly. And at the time the legislation was passed, the UN believed the only languages that fit this definition were French, English, Mandarin, Arabic, and Spanish.
And now, in 2150, after so much fighting and riots and controversy, only 131 years later, we're all at ease with this decision.
Right.
Hey, thank you so much for being on the show, and thank you for making the trip out.
Thanks.
I will be so excited to have you back here soon.
Thanks for having me, Chad.
Jack Jameson, everybody.